Bubba was bragging to his boss one day, "You know, I know everyone there is to know. Just name someone, anyone, and I know them." Tired of his boasting, his boss called his bluff. "Okay, Bubba, how about Tom Cruise?" "Sure, yes, Tom and I are old friends, and I can prove it." So Bubba and his boss fly out to Hollywood and knock on Tom Cruise's door, and sure enough, Tom Cruise shouts, "Bubba, great to see you. You and your friend come right in and join me for lunch." Although impressed, Bubba's boss is still skeptical. After they leave Cruise's house, he tells Bubba that he thinks the boss knowing Cruise was just lucky. No, just name anyone else," Bubba says. "President Clinton," his boss quickly retorts. "Yes," Bubba says, "I know him. Let's fly out to Washington." And off they go. At the White House, Clinton spots Bubba on the tour and motions him and his boss over, saying, "Bubba, what a surprise. I was just on my way to a meeting. But you and your friend come on in and let's have a cup of coffee first and catch up." Well, the boss is very shaken by now, but still not totally convinced. After they leave the White House grounds, he expresses his doubts to Bubba, who again implores him to name anyone else. "The Pope," his boss replies. "Sure," says Bubba. "My folks are from Poland, and I've known the Pope a long time." So off they fly to Rome. Bubba and his boss are assembled with the masses in Vatican Square when Bubba says, "This will never work. I can't catch the Pope's eye among all these people. Tell you what, I know all the guards, so let me just go upstairs and he'll come out on the balcony with the Pope." And he disappears into the crowd headed toward the Vatican. Sure enough, half an hour later Bubba emerges with the Pope on the balcony. But by the time Bubba returns, he finds that his boss has had a heart attack and is surrounded by paramedics. Working his way to his boss' side, Bubba asks him, "What happened?" His boss looks up and says, "I was doing fine until you and the Pope came out on the balcony and the man next to me said." "Who's that on the balcony with Bubba?"
Of the drug epidemic plaguing the world. In an effort to solve this dilemma, he decided that a few apostles would return to Earth and fetch a sample of each drug. 2 days after the operation is implemented, the disciples begin to return. Jesus, waiting at the door, lets in each disciple. "Who is it?" "It's Mark." Jesus opens the door. "What did you bring, Mark?" "Marijuana from Jamaica." "Very well, son. Come in." Another soft knock is heard. "Who is it?" "It's Matthew." Jesus opens the door. "What did you bring, Matthew?" "Cocaine from Bolivia." "Very well, son. Come in." At the next knock, Jesus asks, "Who is it?" "It's John." Jesus opens the door. "What did you bring, John?" "Crack from New York." "Very well, son. Come in." Someone starts pounding at the door. "Who is it?" "It's Judas." Jesus opens the door. "What did you bring, Judas?" Lots of people rushes and freeze. This is the FBI. Smelly Couple. A young couple decided to wed. As the big day approached, they grew apprehensive. Each had a problem they had never before shared with anyone, not even each other. The groom, to be overcoming his fear, decided to ask his father for advice. "Father," he said, "I am deeply concerned about the success of my marriage." His father replied, "Don't you love this girl?" "Oh yes, very much," he said, "but you see, I have very smelly feet and I'm afraid that my fiancé will be put off by them." "No problem," said Dad, "all you have to do is wash your feet as often as possible and always wear socks. Even to bed." Well, to him this seemed a workable solution. The bride-to-be, overcoming her fear, decided to take her problem up with her mom. "Mom," she said, "when I wake up in the morning, my breath is truly awful." "Honey," her mother consoled, "everyone has bad breath in the morning." "No, you don't understand. My morning breath is so bad, I'm afraid that my fiancé will not want to sleep in the same room with me." Her mother said simply, "Try this. In the morning, get straight out of bed and head for the kitchen to make breakfast. While the family is busy eating, move on to the bathroom and brush your teeth. The key is not to say a word until you brushed your teeth." "I shouldn't say good morning or anything?" the daughter asked. "Not a word," her mother affirmed. "Well, it's certainly worth a try." She thought the loving couple were finally married. Not forgetting the advice each had received, he with his perpetual socks and she with her morning silence, they managed quite well. That is, until about 6 months later, shortly before dawn one morning, the husband wakes with a start to find that one of his socks had come off. Fearful of the consequences, he frantically searches the bed. This, of course, wakes his bride, and without thinking, she asks, "What on earth are you doing?" "Oh, my," he replies, "you have eaten my socks." Robbery. During a robbery, the bank robber shouted to everyone in the bank, "Don't move. The money belongs to the state. Your life belongs to you." Everyone in the bank laid down quietly. This is called mind-changing concept, changing the conventional way of thinking. When a lady lay on the table provocatively, the robber shouted at her, "Please be civilized. This is a robbery and not a rape." This is called being professional. Focus only on what you are trained to do. When the bank robbers returned home, the younger robber, MBA trained, told the older robber, who has only completed year 6 in primary school, "Big brother, let's count how much we got." The older robber rebutted and said, "You are very stupid. There is so much money it will take us a long time to count." Tonight, the TV news will tell us how much we robbed from the bank. This is called experience. Nowadays, experience is more important than paper qualifications. After the robbers had left, the bank manager told the bank supervisor to call the police quickly. But the supervisor said to him, "Wait. Let us take out $10 million from the bank for ourselves and add it to the $70 million that we have previously embezzled from the bank." This is called swim with the tide. Converting an unfavorable situation to your advantage. The supervisor says, "It will be good if there is a robbery every month." This is called killing boredom. Personal happiness is more important than your job. The next day, the TV news reported that $100 million was taken from the bank. The robbers counted and counted and counted, but they could only count $20 million. The robbers were very angry and complained, "We risked our lives and only took $20 million. The bank manager took $80 million with a snap of his fingers. It looks like it is better to be educated than to be a thief. This is called knowledge is worth as much as gold. The bank manager was smiling and happy because his losses in the share market are now covered by this robbery. This is called seizing the opportunity. Daring to take risks. So who are the real robbers here? Running around the forest happily when he saw a giraffe smoking marijuana, and he said, "No. Giraffe, why do you do this to yourself, my friend? Just run around the forest with me, and you'll be happier." The giraffe thought about this and left the smoke and started running with the rabbit. After a while, they came across an elephant taking heroin. "Hey," said the rabbit to the elephant, "why do you destroy yourself and run? Just run around the forest with me and you'll definitely be happier." The elephant thought about this and left his drugs and started running around the forest with the rabbit. After a while, they saw a lion taking cocaine with a powerful drug. "Hey," the rabbit said to the lion, "why do you punish yourself so? Just run around the forest with me and you'll feel happier." Then the lion left his drugs and started giving the rabbit the meaning of his life. "Hey," said the elephant to Mr. Lion, "this guy is only trying to help us from taking drugs. Why are you beating him up?" Then the lion said, "Don't mind this idiot. That's how he makes me run around the forest with him whenever he's high." Into a bar, met with the manager and started yelling, "Give me one, or else." Akpos, a guy in his mid-30s who is also known for making lots of troubles, walked into a bar, met with the manager and started yelling, "Give me 1 carton of beer, 5 plates of pepper soup, 3 plates of ICEWU and 4 plates of NKWOB, or else I'll scatter this place." So, he kept yelling until his needs were met. He enjoyed himself and left without saying thanks. This went on for weeks. He kept coming and his demands were met. One evening, as usual, he barged in and started making his usual demands: "Give me 1 carton of beer, 5 plates of pepper soup, 3 plates of ICEWU and 4 plates of NKWOB, or else, or else." A sharp voice suddenly answered him from behind, "Or else what?" Akpos turned to see who dared to challenge him, and on facing the man, lo and behold, it was a very tall, fierce-looking guy, with a 150-pound Rottweiler panting beside him. Akpos could do nothing but shiver with his mouth wide open and saliva dripping. The voice asked again, "Or else what?"
Akpos couldn't wait for him to complete his statement, so he said, "Pure water." Tactful Ways. The captain called the sergeant in. "Sarge, I just got a telegram that Private Jones' mother died yesterday. Better go tell him and send him in to see me." So the sergeant calls for his morning formation and lines up all the troops. "Listen up, men," says the sergeant. "Johnson, report to the mess hall for KP. Smith, report to personnel to sign some papers. The rest of you men report to the motor pool for maintenance. Oh, by the way, Jones, your mother died, report to the commander." Later that day, the captain called the sergeant into his office. "Hey, Sarge, that was a pretty cold way to inform Jones his mother died. Couldn't you be a bit more tactful next time?" "Yes, sir," answered the Sarge. A few months later, the captain called the sergeant in again with, "Sarge, I just got a telegram that Private McGrath's mother died. You'd better go tell him and send him in to see me. This time be more tactful." So the sergeant calls for his morning formation. "Okay, men, fall in and listen up. Everybody with a mother, take 2 steps forward. Not so fast, McGrath." Boarded a quick shuttle flight out of Dallas, headed for Houston. One sat in the window seat, the other sat in the middle seat. Just before takeoff, an Army soldier got on and took the aisle seat next to the 2 Marines. The soldier kicked off his shoes, wiggled his toes and was settling in when the Marine in the window seat said, "I think I'll get up and get a Coke." "No problem," said the soldier. "I'll get it for you." While he was gone, the Marine picked up the soldier's shoe and spit in it. When the soldier returned with the Coke, the Marine in the middle seat said, "That looks good, I think I'll have one too." Again, the soldier obligingly went to fetch it, and while he was gone, the Marine picked up the soldier's other shoe and spit in it. The soldier returned and they all sat back and enjoyed the rest of the short flight to Houston. As the plane was landing, the soldier slipped his feet into his shoes and knew immediately what had happened. "How long must this go on?" the soldier asked. "This fighting between our services. This hatred, this animosity, this spitting in shoes and peeing in Cokes, as in goes to heaven. When he gets there, street. Peter is standing at the gate. He says, 'If you can answer these 3 questions, I will let you into heaven. First, how many seconds are in a year? Second, how many days of the week have a T in them? Third, what is God's first name? You have until tomorrow to answer these questions.' Akpos comes back the next day, street. Peter asks the first question and Akpos says, 12. 12, says street. Peter, how did you get that? Akpos replied, January 2nd, February 2nd and so on. Peter thinks it over and says, well, that is not exactly what I meant, but it's technically correct. So I will give you credit. Then street. Peter asks the second question and Akpos answers 2. Street. Peter asks how he got that answer and Akpos explains. Today and tomorrow. Street. Peter again admits that wasn't what he had in mind, but he'll accept that. Peter then asks the third question, God's first name. Akpos says, Howard. Street. Peter, really perplexed, inquires how he got that and Akpos says, you know, it's in the prayer, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Year-old boy asked a married woman out. The woman got so pissed she went to tell her husband about the encounter. The husband told the woman to invite the boy over so that he could beat the hell out of him. He would hide under the bed as he waited for him. The woman did as her husband requested. When the boy got there, he kissed the woman and took off his t-shirt and his body was full of scars, so the woman asked, why so many scars? The boy replied, I always lay with married women and usually when I get caught I kill the husband. If someone shows up now he will be number 20 on my murder list. The boy continued kissing the woman and undressing her. The woman tried to reach out for her husband under the bed and a small voice came out, if you tell him I'm here, I'll kill you before he kills me. Just cooperate. Boys from the mountains, Leroy and Jasper have been promoted from privates to sergeants. Not long after, they're out for a walk and Leroy says, "Hey Jasper, there's the NCO club. Let's you and me stop in." "But we's privates," protests Jasper. "We's sergeants now," says Leroy, pulling him inside. "Now, Jasper, I'm a-gonna sit down and have me a drink." "But we's privates," says Jasper. "Are you blind, boy?" asks Leroy, pointing at his stripes. "We's sergeants now." So they have their drink, and pretty soon a hooker comes up to Leroy. "You're cute," she says, "and I'd like to date you, but I've got a bad case of gonorrhea." Leroy pulls his friend to the side and whispers, "Jasper, go look in the dictionary and see what gonorrhea means. If it's okay, give me the okay sign." So Jasper goes to look it up, comes back, and gives Leroy the big okay sign. 3 weeks later, Leroy is laid up in the infirmary with a terrible case of gonorrhea. "Jasper," he says, "why did you give me the okay sign?" "Well, Leroy, in the dictionary, it says gonorrhea affects only the privates." He points to his stripes. "But we's sergeants now." Doctor and an engineer entered a chocolate store. As they were busy looking around, the doctor stole 3 chocolate bars. As they left the store, the doctor said to engineer, "Man, I'm the best thief ever. I stole 3 chocolate bars and no one saw me." "You can't beat that," the engineer replied. "Okay, you want to see something better? Let's go back to the store and I'll show you real stealing." So they both went up to the counter and the engineer said to the shop boy, "Hey, would you like to see some magic?" The shop boy replied, "Yes." The engineer said, "Give me 1 chocolate bar." The shop boy gave him 1, and he ate it. He asked for the second, and he ate that 1 as well. He asked for the third, and finished that 1 too. The shop boy asked, "Okay, what are you trying to pull here?" "Where's the magic?" The engineer replied, "Check in my friend's pocket. You'll find all 3 bars. Rolling on the floor, laughing, rolling on the floor, laughing, rolling close behind the cat food and special prices. Takes a dozen cans of cat food and goes to check out." The manager gets suspicious. He thinks that this guy might not have a cat and will probably feed cat food to his kids. He asks the Indian to show him his cat before he can let him have cat food. The Indian goes home and returns with a cat and gets to buy the cat food. Next week the Indian finds dog food and special prices. He picks a dozen cans of dog food and goes to check out. The manager again gets suspicious. He thinks that this guy may have a cat but he cannot have a dog and he will probably feed dog food to his kids. He asks the Indian to bring and show him the dog before he can let him have dog food. The Indian goes home and returns with a dog. He gets to buy the dog food. The following week the Indian comes to Walmart with a bag. He asks the manager to put his hand in the bag. The manager puts his hand in the bag, feels something slimy and immediately pulls it out. He shouts at the Indian, "What the hell? This is shit, you idiot." The Indian calmly replies, "Yes, now may I buy some toilet paper?" Rolling on the floor, laughing, rolling on the... A British general had sent some of his men off to fight for their country in the Falkland Island crisis. Upon returning to England from the South American island, 3 soldiers that had distinguished themselves in battle were summoned to the general's office. "Since we weren't actually at war," the general began, "I can't give out any medals. We did, however, want to let each of you know your efforts were appreciated. What we've decided to do is to let each of you choose 2 points on your body. You will be given £2 for each inch of distance between those parts. We'll start on the left, boys, so what'll it be?" Soldier 1, "The tip of me head to me toes, sir." General, "Very good, son, that's 70 inches which comes to 140 pounds, Soldier 2. "The tip of the finger on one outstretched hand to the tip of the other, sir." General, "Even better, son, that's 72 inches which comes to 144 pounds, Soldier 3. "The palm of me hand to the tip of me left pinky, sir." General, "That's a strange but fair request, son." As the general begins the measurement, "What? Son, where is your left pinky?" Soldier 3, "Falkland Island, sir." Rolling on the floor, Lapnal poetry contest had come down to 2, a Yale graduate and a redneck from Texas. They were given a word, then allowed 2 minutes to study the word and come up with a poem that contained the word. The word they were given was Timbuktu. First to recite his poem was the Yale graduate. He stepped to the microphone and said, "Slowly across the desert sand trekked a lonely caravan. Men on camels, 2 by 2. Destination Timbuktu." The crowd went crazy. No way could the redneck top that, they thought. The redneck calmly made his way to the microphone and recited, "Me and Tim a huntin' went, met 3 whores in a pop-up tent. They was 3, and we was 2. So I bucked 1, and Timbuktu." Our neighbors had a baby. Unfortunately, the little baby was born with no ears when they arrived home from the hospital. The parents invited little Johnny's family to come over and see their new baby. Little Johnny's parents were very afraid that their son would have a wisecrack to say about the baby, so the dad had a long talk with little Johnny before going to the neighbors. He said, "Now, son, that poor baby was born without any ears. I want you to be on your best behavior and not say one word about his ears, or I am really going to spank you when we get back home. I promise not to mention his ears at all," said little Johnny. At the neighbor's home, little Johnny leaned over in the crib and touched the baby's hand. He looked at its mother and said, "Oh, what a beautiful little baby." The mother said, "Thank you very much, little Johnny." He then said, "This baby has perfect little hands and perfect little feet. Why, just look at his pretty little eyes. Did his doctor say that he can see good?" The mother said, "Why, yes, Johnny, his doctor said he has 20/20 vision." Little Johnny said, "Well, it's a darn good thing, 'cause he sure couldn't wear glasses." Rolling on the floor laughing, rolling on the floor laugh. Class, little Johnny's teacher has the class go home and think of a story and then conclude the moral of that story. The following day, the teacher asks for the first volunteer to tell their story. Little Susie raises her hand. "My dad owns a farm, and every Sunday we load the chicken eggs on the truck and drive into town to sell them at the market. Well, one Sunday we hit a big bump and all the eggs flew out of the basket and onto the road." The teacher asks for the moral of the story. Susie replies, "Don't keep all your eggs in one basket." Next is little Lucy. "Well, my dad owns a farm too, and every weekend we take the chicken eggs and put them in the incubator. Last weekend only 8 of the 12 eggs hatched." The teacher asks for the moral of the story. Lucy replies, "Don't count your eggs before they're hatched." Last is little Johnny. "My Uncle Ted fought in the Vietnam War. His plane was shot down over enemy territory. He jumped out before it crashed with only a case of beer, a machine gun and a machete. On the way down he drank the case of beer. Unfortunately, he landed right in the middle of 100 Vietnamese soldiers. He shot 70 with his machine gun, but ran out of bullets, so he pulled out his machete and killed 20 more. The blade on his machete broke, so he killed the last 10 with his bare hands." Teacher looks in shock at Johnny and asks if there is possibly any moral to his story. Johnny replies, "Don't F***CK with Uncle Ted when he's been drinking." Rolling on the walks into a fancy jewelry store. She browses around, spots a beautiful diamond bracelet and walks over to inspect it. As she bends over to look more closely, she inadvertently breaks wind. Very embarrassed, she looks around nervously to see if anyone has noticed her little accident and prays that a salesperson doesn't pop up right now. As she turns around, her worst nightmare materializes in the form of a salesman standing right behind her. Cool as a cucumber and displaying complete professionalism, the salesman greets the lady with, "Good day, madam, how may we help you today?" Very uncomfortably, but hoping that the salesman may not have been there at the time of her little accident. She asks, "Sir, what is the price of this lovely bracelet?" He answers, "Madam, if you farted just looking at it, you're going to shit when I tell you the price." Rolling on the floor laughing, rolling on the Monday morning. They were very excited. Their weekend assignment was to sell something, then give a talk on productive salesmanship. Little Mary led off, "I sold Girl Scout cookies and I made $30. She said proudly, "My sales approach was to appeal to the customer's civil spirit, and I credit that approach for my obvious success." "Very good," said the teacher. Little Sally was next. "I sold magazines," she said. "I made $45 and I explained to everyone that magazines would keep them abreast of current events." "Very good, Sally," said the teacher. Eventually, it was little Johnny's turn. Little Johnny walked to the front of the classroom and dumped a box full of cash on the teacher's desk. $2,467, he said. $2,467, cried the teacher. What in the world were you selling? Toothbrushes, said little Johnny. Toothbrushes, echoed the teacher. How could you possibly sell enough toothbrushes to make that much money? I found the busiest corner in town, said little Johnny. I set up a dip and chip stand. I gave everybody who walked by a sample. They all said the same thing. Hey, this tastes like shit. Then I would say, it is shit. Wanna buy a toothbrush? Rolling on the pose was doing very badly in maths. His parents had tried everything: tutors, mentors, flashcards, and special learning centers. In short, everything they could think of to help his maths. Finally, in a last-ditch effort, they took Akpos down and enrolled him in the local Catholic school. After the first day, Akpos came home with a very serious look on his face. He didn't even kiss his mother hello. Instead, he went straight to his room and started studying. Books and papers were spread out all over the room and Akpos was hard at work. His mother was amazed. She called him down to dinner. To her shock, the minute he was done, he marched back to his room without a word, and in no time, he was back hitting the books as hard as before. This went on for some time, day after day, while the mother tried to understand what made all the difference. Finally, Akpos brought home his report card. He quietly laid it on the table, went up to his room and hit the books. With great trepidation, his mom looked at it and to her great surprise, Akpos got an A in maths. She could no longer hold her curiosity. She went to his room and said, "Son, what was it? Was it the nuns?" Akpos looked at her and shook his head. "No." "Well, then," she replied, "was it the books, the discipline, the structure, the uniforms? What was it?" Akpos looked at her and said, "Well, on the first day of school when I saw that guy nailed to the cross sign, I knew they weren't fooling around." Rolling on the floor laughing,